Imagine turning on your tap and knowing with complete certainty that no bill is coming. Not a reduced bill, not a credit from the government, not a discount program you applied for last spring, nothing, zero. Every single month, every single year, for 137 years. That is not a dream someone is selling you on the internet. That is Tuesday morning on a farm outside Sugarcreek, Ohio, where a family has been drawing clean water from the same system their great-great-grandfather built with his own hands in 1887. I stood at that well last September. I drank the water. I tested it with a kit I bought at a hardware store for $14. The results came back clean, not city water clean, not filtered through 12 stages clean. Clean the way water is supposed to be clean before we decided that clean water was a service someone else provides and charges you for every 30 days. What I am about to show you is the exact system that family has used for 137 years, without modification, without a plumber, without a utility company, and without a single monthly statement arriving in the mail. No pump required, no electricity, no permits, no infrastructure that can fail during a storm or be shut off during a drought restriction, or have its rates increased by a board of directors you never voted for. And here's the number I want you to hold in your mind while we go through all of this. The average American household spends $1,100 every year on water and sewage bills. That is $11,000 over a decade. $55,000 over 50 years. Money that flows directly from your account into the hands of municipal water systems that have spent decades lobbying to make sure you never seriously consider an alternative. In 2021, water utility rates across the United States increased by an average of 5.8%. The year before that, 5.3%. The year before that, 4.9%. The direction never changes. The rate never goes down. The bill never disappears, unless you know what the Amish figured out 200 years ago. And unless someone is willing to explain why that knowledge is sitting in a 1903 agricultural survey instead of in every home improvement guide ever printed. Let me start at the beginning. The absolute foundation of the Amish water system is something so simple it sounds like it cannot possibly be enough. They read the land before they touch it. Every Amish homestead I have visited in Holmes County, Ohio, and Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, was built with one question answered before the first stone was laid. Where does the water already want to go? Not where the water company runs its pipes, not where the municipal easement happens to fall. Where does rainwater move naturally across this specific piece of ground, and where does it collect, and where does it disappear into the earth? That question, asked seriously and answered by observation across multiple seasons, tells you everything you need to know about where your water is and how to reach it without a single piece of mechanical equipment. The Amish call this reading the land. Hydrologists call it surface hydrology mapping. Penn State Extension has published research confirming that natural groundwater patterns in rural Pennsylvania are predictable enough that traditional observation methods used before modern drilling equipment are accurate to within 15 feet of actual aquifer location. 15 feet. From watching the land for one season. The man whose family built that 1887 system in Sugarcreek told me his great-great-grandfather spent the first spring on the property doing nothing but watching. Where did the ground stay wet longest after a rain? Where did the grass stay green deepest into August? Where did the frost leave the ground first in March? Where did the animals go to drink from puddles after a storm? Each of those observations pointed at the same location, a slight depression in the northwest corner of the property, fed by two natural drainage channels running off the hillside above. He dug there. He found water at 22 feet. That well has never gone dry. Not in the drought of 1930, not in the drought of 1988, not last summer when 3 counties in eastern Ohio issued water use restrictions, and municipal customers were told to limit outdoor watering. The family in the northwest corner of that Sugarcreek property turned on their tap and nothing changed. But finding water is only the first layer. The second layer is where the Amish system separates itself completely from anything you will find in a modern plumbing guide. They do not just find water, they move it without power. A standard American water system works on pressure. A pump, usually electric, forces water through pipes into a pressurized tank, and that pressure pushes water out of your faucets. The moment the power goes out, the pressure drops. The moment the pump fails, the water stops. The moment the utility company raises rates to maintain the infrastructure that generates that pressure, your bill goes up. The Amish in the older Holmes County settlements, particularly those whose farms predate rural electrification, use a system that requires none of those things. It is called a gravity-fed spring box system, and the engineering behind it is so elegant and so permanent that I have been thinking about it almost every day since I first understood how it works. Here is the principle. If your water source sits at a higher elevation than your point of use, even by as little as 10 vertical feet, gravity will move that water continuously, silently, and for free, forever. The spring box itself is a simple structure, A stone or concrete chamber, typically 3 to 4 feet on each side, built directly over the point where groundwater naturally emerges from the hillside. The chamber collects and protects the water from surface contamination. A screened overflow pipe maintains the water level and prevents stagnation. A buried clay or iron pipe, sloped continuously downhill, carries the water from the spring box to the house and barn below. No pump, no pressure tank, no electricity, no moving parts of any kind. The water runs because the earth tilts. It runs in summer and winter. It runs during power outages and ice storms and droughts that dry up municipal reserves. It has been running on farms across Lancaster County and Holmes County for more than 2 centuries, and the families who maintain those systems have never once called a plumber to restore water pressure, because their system does not use pressure. It uses physics, and physics does not send a bill. Cornell University's Agricultural Engineering Department studied traditional gravity-fed spring systems in rural New York and Pennsylvania, and documented flow rates that consistently met or exceeded typical household demand without any mechanical assistance. A properly sited spring box on a hillside with moderate groundwater yield produces between 3 and 15 gallons per minute, depending on season and geology. A family of 4 uses an average of 80 to 100 gallons per day. A spring box producing 5 gallons per minute produces 7,200 gallons per day. That is 72 times what a family of 4 needs. From a hole in a hillside, covered with stone, connected by a buried pipe, built by one man with a shovel and a basic understanding of how water moves. Now, here's where most people stop. They hear about spring boxes and gravity systems and they think, fine, that works on a hillside farm in Ohio. What about the rest of us? What about flat land? What about a house built in 1974 with existing plumbing and a water bill that went up again last January? This is the part I want you to stay for. Because the Amish solution to flat land and shallow water tables is something I found documented in a USDA agricultural survey from 1908 that described existing systems in eastern Ohio settlements as already being several generations old. These were not new ideas in 1908. They were established practices being recorded before they disappeared from the mainstream record. The system is called a driven point well with a ram pump, and the combination of those two elements produces running water on flat land with no electricity and almost no maintenance for the lifetime of the structure. A driven point well requires no drilling equipment. A hardened steel tip, pointed and perforated, is driven into the ground using a manual driver, essentially a weighted pipe used as a hammer. In sandy or loamy soil, a family can drive a well point to 15 or 20 feet in a single afternoon. 2 people, no machinery, no contractor, no permit required in most rural counties. At that depth in most of the eastern and midwestern United States, you reach the water table. Water enters through the perforations in the tip and fills the pipe. But here is where the Amish added something that most people who know about driven point wells never mention: the hydraulic ram pump. A hydraulic ram pump uses the momentum of flowing water to push a portion of that water uphill against gravity. It has no motor. It has no electrical components. It has 2 moving parts, both simple valves, and it runs continuously as long as water flows into it. Here is how it works. Water from the well or a nearby stream flows downhill through a drive pipe to the ram pump body. As the water accelerates, it slams a valve shut. That sudden stop, called a water hammer, creates a pressure spike that forces a small portion of the water through a one-way valve and uphill through a delivery pipe to your storage tank or house. The pump wastes most of the water it receives, but it uses the energy in that wasted water to push the kept portion uphill, sometimes 40 or 50 feet above the pump itself. No electricity, no fuel, no motor, just the weight of falling water doing work. The hydraulic ram pump was invented in 1796. Thomas Jefferson installed one at Monticello. Colonial farmers used them across Virginia and Pennsylvania. The Amish never stopped using them because they never needed anything better. In 2019, researchers at the University of Georgia documented functioning hydraulic ram pump installations across Appalachian communities that had been operating continuously for more than 60 years without a single mechanical failure beyond occasional valve replacement. Valve replacement. That is the maintenance schedule. A rubber disc the size of a quarter, replaced once every several years, costing less than $1. Compare that to the maintenance schedule on a standard submersible electric well pump. Motor replacement every 8 to 12 years, averaging well over $200 installed. Pressure tank replacement every 10 to 15 years, averaging $900 installed. Electrical repair after every lightning strike or power surge. And the monthly electricity cost to run the pump, averaging $30 to $50 per year for a typical household well. Over 30 years, a conventional electric well system costs between $3,000 and $6,000 in maintenance and electricity alone, not counting the original installation. A hydraulic ram pump costs between $80 and $300 for the pump body, requires a simple gravity-fed inlet pipe and runs indefinitely on the energy of water movement. That is the math the well drilling industry does not want you to do. Now I need to tell you about the part of the system I almost missed, the part that stopped me completely when I finally understood what I was looking at. I found it in a digitized archive of Mennonite community records from Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, maintenance logs from the 1890s, entries written in careful German script recording seasonal tasks the same way a modern homeowner might keep a maintenance checklist. One phrase appeared in entry after entry across multiple farms, multiple years, multiple families. Spring cleaning, not the house, the water. The Amish understood something about water systems that modern plumbing design completely abandoned. A water source, no matter how clean, requires annual maintenance to stay clean, not chemical treatment, not filtration systems that need replacement cartridges, physical maintenance. Every spring, before the growing season, the spring box was opened and cleared. Silt that had settled through the winter was removed by hand. The overflow screen was cleaned. The collection chamber walls were scrubbed with a brush made from cattail stems. Then the chamber was filled with clean water, left to sit for 24 hours, and drained completely before being returned to service. The entire process took 2 people one morning. The result was a water source that never developed the bacterial films, the sediment buildup, or the taste contamination that plagued neglected water systems. The 1908 USDA survey noted that Amish spring water in Holmes County tested consistently cleaner than municipal water supplies in nearby towns that were using chemical treatment. Not cleaner despite being untreated. Cleaner because the system was designed and maintained in a way that prevented contamination rather than reacting to it after the fact. That distinction is the one the water treatment industry has spent a century making sure you never seriously consider. Here is the number that tells you everything about why this knowledge is not in any home improvement guide you have ever read. The American water utility industry generates $148 billion in annual revenue. That number exists because you're connected to their system. The moment a significant portion of American homeowners implement a working alternative, a portion of that $148 billion begins to disappear. There are currently 43 states with regulations that classify rainwater collection as either restricted or regulated activity. In Colorado, until 2016, collecting rainwater on your own property was illegal. Illegal. Water that fell from the sky onto land you owned could not be collected and used by you without violating state law. Colorado changed that law only after years of sustained advocacy from rural homeowners and agricultural groups. The regulations that replaced it still limit collection to 110 gallons per household. 110 gallons. A family of 4 uses that in roughly 12 hours. The lobbying records behind those water collection restrictions are a matter of public record. Municipal water authorities and investor-owned utility companies have spent decades funding state-level campaigns to classify independent water systems as health hazards requiring regulation, while the water coming through municipal pipes in cities like Newark, New Jersey, and Flint, Michigan, was actively poisoning children with lead. The Amish family in Sugarcreek did not have lead in their water in 2014 when Flint made national news. They were drinking from the same stone spring box their great-great-grandfather built in 1887. If you already own a home and you are thinking this only applies to people with hillside farms and rural land, I want to give you the version of this that applies to you specifically. You do not need a spring. You do not need a hillside. You do not need acreage. You need a roof, a gutter, and a properly constructed collection and filtration system. The average American roof receives between 40 and 70 inches of rainfall per year, depending on region. A 1,000 square foot roof receiving 50 inches of annual rainfall collects approximately 31,000 gallons of water per year. A family of 4 uses approximately 43,000 gallons per year for all household purposes. A 1,000 square foot roof in a moderate rainfall climate captures 72% of a family's annual water needs from rain. That falls for free onto a surface you already own. The filtration system the Amish used for collected rainwater was documented in those same Lancaster County maintenance logs from the 1890s. 3 chambers in sequence. The first chamber allowed heavy sediment to settle. The second chamber contained layers of clean gravel, then sand, then charcoal made from hardwood. The third chamber was the clean storage reservoir, covered and protected from light and air. Water entering the first chamber, dirty emerged from the third chamber, clear, odorless, and free of biological contamination in tests conducted by Penn State researchers studying traditional rural water systems in the 1970s. No filter cartridge to replace, no electricity to run a pump, no chemical treatment to buy, sand, gravel, and charcoal. The charcoal filtration layer is the piece that genuinely surprised me when I first read the research. Activated charcoal, which is what modern water filters use as their primary filtration medium, is just charcoal that has been processed to increase its surface area. The Amish were using basic hardwood charcoal, not activated charcoal, and still achieving results that matched or exceeded municipal treatment in contemporary testing. The surface area difference matters less than the industry would like you to believe when the system is designed correctly and maintained on a consistent seasonal schedule. A 3-chamber filtration system built from concrete blocks and filled with materials available at any landscape supply company costs approximately $200 to $400 in materials. It requires no ongoing supply purchases, no replacement filters, and no electricity. The water filter industry in the United States generates $4.4 billion in annual revenue on replacement cartridges alone. The Amish maintenance log from 1893 says, "Clean the sand layer, replace the charcoal, takes half a morning." I've been sitting with this system for a long time now. The spring box built in 1887, the hydraulic ram pump with 2 moving parts that costs $1 to maintain, the 3-chamber sand and charcoal filter that processes 30,000 gallons a year with half a morning of annual maintenance, the seasonal cleaning ritual that kept water cleaner than the chemically treated municipal supply in the neighboring town. None of this required a degree. None of it required a permit in the county where it was built. None of it required a monthly payment to anyone. What it required was knowledge. Knowledge about how water moves, where it collects, how to guide it without mechanical force, and how to keep it clean without chemistry. That knowledge was standard. It was documented in agricultural surveys and community maintenance logs and university extension publications going back to the 19th century. It was practiced by families across Holmes County and Lancaster County and every rural community in America that predated the municipal water infrastructure. And then, within a single generation, it disappeared from the mainstream conversation. Not because it stopped working. The 1887 spring box is still working, not because something better replaced it. Lead pipes and rate increases are not better, because the infrastructure that replaced it was profitable in a way that a stone box on a hillside with a buried clay pipe never could be. The Yoder family in Holmes County never got the bill. They never needed the infrastructure. They built their system before the industry existed to tell them they needed one, and the system they built is still running. Drop your state in the comments below. Tell me what you pay for water every month. I want to build a picture of what this knowledge is worth across every county in this country, because the number is bigger than most people are ready to hear. Subscribe, because what I found next makes this one look like the introduction. And that is not something I say lightly.